Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Johnny the Greek's Free Real Estate, episode 4. This week, I am here with Josh Raymer of the IDP Show and the IDPshow.com. Josh is one of my very good friends in the IDP Twitter landscape. Him and the fellas have an excellent podcast that is truly hilarious. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I highly recommend it. Before we get into things, though, the normal disclaimer: this is a free fire zone. We will very likely say some swears and other bad things and make poop jokes and all that. So keep that in mind. This may not be safe for work. And if you have kids in the room, consider some headphones or having them put on some headphones. With that being said, Josh, what's up, man? How are you? Thank you for coming.
If you have kids in the room, consider making better life choices. That would be the disclaimer I think I would have, Johnny. It's awesome to be here, man. I was so excited when you told me you were doing this show. I told you before we got on air, my goal was to get you canceled. And so let's see if we can do that, baby. Let's see if we can, before this night is over, burn this thing to the ground.
Works for me. I mean, if it's not you, it'll be Adam. So there's a good chance between the two of you.
You don't. I'm glad that we have the video element now for our show because you can truly see the shenanigans that happen in the Sode Shack every week as this like flaming train filled with dung hurtles down the rails, just careening left and right. And I'm just white knuckling it, trying to keep it on the tracks. I'm glad people understand that now. And yes, it is Adam that will eventually cause us to get canceled. But what a wonderful day that will be.
Yeah, I love the new setup, the multi cameras. I have requested a bathroom cam, but I know that's not in the budget yet. But I'm hoping it will be at some point.
Yes, we lost our Manscaped sponsorship, so we're in the works on, finding a toilet brand, maybe like Charmin that could give us a sponsorship and would like a Dookie cam. But
Ooh,
it's in the works, Johnny. We know we got the OnlyFans registered. It's not live yet. We're waiting on the camera and the Dookie cam set up to make that happen. But just for you, you'll be our only fan on OnlyFans, but that's worth it.
and no, yeah, consider me signed up. So before this might have been before you guys got to Twitter, there was Feats and Meats. That was a podcast that we threatened to start just to fuck with people. This was an IDP dude thing when he was still around, and Nate made graphics for it and T-shirts, and we like made the announcement like Feats and Meats podcast coming this summer. And like people thought we were for real with that. Like I may just do that one of these days, just Feats and Meats podcast. Like forget this fantasy football stuff.
I'm waiting for that. And here's the thing, when people saw that, they were having to tuck some boners in some waistbands for the rest of the day. Like their work day was shot. Like they couldn't stand up for about a half hour. So I'm waiting for Feats and Meats. I'm also waiting for taking a steamer and talking streamers with Johnny the Greek.
Oh, that's right. You know, it's funny. I forgot to do that last year. I had a graphic made up of a guy taking a dump, and it was going to say Johnny the Greek's streamers and steamers. And that was going to be like my front page picture for one of the corner article weeks. But I just totally forgot to do it. I will do it this year, though, for sure.
It's on brand. I said, it's perfect in this little StreamYard header we have that I'm getting crapped on by the guy from Dumb and Dumber. This just is like this whole thing going on here is like the Johnny the Greek brand come to life, and I'm so glad we're finally getting to experience it in a expanded format.
Oh, no doubt. And we'll talk about life in fantasy football a little bit later here. So, yeah, cuz that we'll definitely talk about that cuz I give less and less a shit every season. I just I really don't care. So, we're getting there. But we'll get into that. Let's start with what you guys have been up to though this offseason. Tell us about I saw Adam's draft kit tweet beforehand. What's that and what else have you guys been up to this offseason?
Man, it is. We've been joking off season. No, sir. It's the on season. So we have been burning the content wheel at both ends. And the IDP Draft Kit is a very exciting piece of the puzzle for us this off season. We've partnered up with IDPGuys. We've partnered up with our boy DFF Trip. We brought in DJ Keltown, who many of your listeners will know. And we are putting together one of the first IDP focused draft kits out there. And so we wanted to make this very actionable, usable. We don't put out anything unless it's really high quality and unless it can actually help you win fantasy championships, right? Like we're not here to make ourselves sound good or look good. We're here to help you win. So we're putting together some rankings, some reports, some blurbs. We just want to help you get set up for success with your drafts. And we really are focusing on the redraft community with this. There'll be dynasty aspects to it as well. And whether you're, this is typically, newcomers, people who have just started playing IDP, it's kind of our target audience for this. But whether you've played for, 10 minutes or 10 years, I think you're going to get some use out of the IDP Draft Kit. We've got early bird pricing through the end of the NFL draft. So through April 30th, only $10. So we also wanted to make it really affordable because we know that nobody's ever had a chance to use it. So we don't want to price it really high. We want to price it low, prove value, and then let this become something we do year in and year out to help folks get ready for their IDP drafts.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's going to be really good. And then, what else have you guys been doing? So I know you got the podcast going. You're focusing on draft. I saw your tweet today about the peaks and valleys of listenership through the season, and it peaks right about here as well as early season too.
That's right. Yeah. NFL draft is actually our highest peak. If you look at kind of the growth chart for our podcasts and when listeners really start to tune in, it's the draft. And then it really stays strong through about the beginning of the season, which is when we see another peak. And then about week 6, that's when, as you can attest and understand and appreciate, the casual fans start to tune out a little bit. So we're really pouring it in right now. We're blowing out our draft coverage. We've got the Big Nickel IDP podcast with John, and our boy Evan Ronda has been filling in for John Macri while John spends some time with his family. And we're doing the draft live stream again next week on Thursday. We'll be live breaking down round 1. We've got a couple very special guests we are going to have live in the Sode Shack. So, and we're hoping that the IDP Summit is what we're calling that. And we're hoping in the future to be able to invite all of our buddies from IDP down here to Bowling Green for some golf, for some grilling out, for some fried chicken, and just some shenanigans. A few days of shenanigans around the NFL draft. So we'll be starting that off this year. And just like the draft kit, hopefully it turns into a nice yearly tradition for us.
I love that, man. I love that. And I'm trying to work towards being able to do stuff like that. Like right now, it's like I get deployed, I go open an office somewhere for 3 to 4 months at a time, and that's my life. I don't smell a day off till August this year, so it's kind of ridiculous. But it's I guess the price of responsibility and being an adult. So, but one of these years, I absolutely hope to be a part of that with you guys.
We're getting you down here. We may not let you go. So you just need to get your affairs in order and say your goodbyes before you come down here.
Works for me. So, I mean, we had what, you and Adam, or was it you and Adam or you and Bobby on IDPGuys back in the day for the interview? I can't remember. Was it you? I think it was you and Adam.
Yeah, I know Bobby did you guys show one of the last episodes that you guys did. Right. Bobby was on and talked Rams. And I think we had been on maybe IDP guys previously. So way back in the day.
Gotcha. So this is a modified format of that interview, basically. And the whole idea behind this was I just told Nate, I was like, the interview used to be something that we really enjoyed. And, we got to know some of the other people in the community really well, and love the community. But no, this is just an opportunity for us to talk about more than football too. So let's just start in the beginning, man. So for football itself, was that something that was like a family thing you got into, or when did you start watching? How did you start watching?
So I remember this very specifically. We're Colts fans. My dad grew up a Johnny Unitas fan. So when the Colts drafted Peyton Manning, it took us a year to kind of catch on to like, hey, something going on with this Colts team. I think there was some buzz around them with Peyton Manning going into his second season. So we actually tuned in, and I went back and looked it up. And so it would have been 1999 that we plugged back into football. I think 99, I would have been 12. So I remember it being like right at the end of elementary school, beginning of middle school. We got big time into the Colts and have been huge Colts fans ever since. We go to training camps, try to go to one game a year. And we've been through, the Manning era, the Luck era, where we find ourselves out at now with the Matt Ryan era getting ready to start. So that was it for us, man. And it's always been a family thing. It was, I think, something dad wanted to do just to have something to like do with his two sons. Me and Connor were getting to that age where we were starting to develop our own interests outside of hanging out with our parents. So I applaud dad because I'm thinking about that now as a dad, right? Of like, what's Paxton going to want to do with me when he gets to be a teenager? And I'm hopeful that football can be one of those things.
Oh, dude, I'm sure it will be. So, with all basically every other guest I've had on here so far, just the pattern I've seen through doing these interviews over the years, like that family is the biggest reason for football. It's the reason I got into football. Like as a young kid, hearing my dad scream and call the refs like it's my show. Calling the refs cocksuckers and stuff. Like, I was like, what is this guy doing? Like, what could be that important? You know what I mean? And then that's where it started. And the Cowboys were good then, so it was nice to see a team win, like Super Bowls, multiple back in the day. Like, so yeah, family is. Kyle just said family was his answer. Nate, his grandfather got him into it. So that's a very popular answer, and I think your son will probably see your passion for it and be into it too.
Yeah, that's the hope is cuz Sundays it's all about we get together either at my parents' house or Connor's house. He lives about 5 minutes down the road and we have the games on, but like especially now that we're all older, it's a good chance for our kids to get together and play. It's a good excuse to see all of our friends. I mean, I see Adam every week doing the podcast, but we've got a couple other friends that we've been friends with since middle school that will come over and hang out. And so as you get older, it's harder and harder to make those moments and carve out that time to spend with friends and family. So football's always just been a nice, I don't want to say excuse, but a nice way to bring everybody together and give us something to do.
Dude, you totally nailed it. Everyone's gonna be watching the games anyway, so it's like get them all in one spot, do it together. Absolutely, love that. So we're definitely gonna bounce around a little bit here, so don't be surprised if the questions are like super all over the place. But what do you do for a living?
So I'm this is funny. This answer has changed very recently. So this silly little hobby that we've been undertaking for the past 3 years doing this podcast, well, almost 3 years come July, uh, has actually affected my career. So I work for a company called Scribe Media, which has an office in Austin, Texas. And I've been with them. I started as a freelancer in December of 2015, got hired on full time January of 2019. So I've been with them full time almost 3.5 years now. And the what I've done up to now is I've written books for the company. I do a lot of short form content, and now, funny enough, because of this podcast and the experience I've gotten, I'm helping our company launch a brand new product that is helping our authors whose books we publish. If any of them want to start a podcast as part of their personal brand, that's where I'm going to come in and help them launch their own show. So we are in the midst of developing that podcast product right now for Scribe. We've got our pilot authors in there. They're helping us beta test our process. And so I joke with people that something I did for fun in my shed is now kind of guiding the path for my career, which is just incredibly stupid and wild.
That's awesome though, man. That's good stuff, right? Like, and the same thing kind of happened to Nate. Like we were just screwing around, made a crappy podcast that 40 people listened to, and then hey, let's make a website. And now that's like his full-time thing is like helping other people make these same style of websites and content creation and editing. It can happen. It can definitely happen.
It is funny. I will tell younger people, people in college or fresh out of college, I'm like, don't, you will be amazed at the life experiences you have that shape the direction of your career. I got my first job fresh out of college. It was 2009, so I was 21 years old. And my first job was as a sports writer for the State Journal, which is the newspaper in Frankfort, Kentucky, our state capital. And what got me that job, I remember sitting in the meeting with the publisher. I'm sorry, the editor in chief of the paper. He was like 1,000 years old. He was crusty as hell, and he was kind of, you could tell he was bored. He didn't want to be there, but he saw my resume that I was the founder and president of the dodgeball club at WKU. That got me, I am convinced that got me that job, because that actually caused him to like take interest and pay attention to what I had to bring to the table. So and then my second job, when I moved back to Bowling Green in 2012, it was my elementary school principal who gave the referral that actually landed me that job. So you never know. You think it's like, oh, it's my education and it's my internships.
Nope.
And that's just a piece of paper, man. That's just like a check mark on a page. Like, it is the most serendipitous stuff that will cause you to have opportunities open up. So like, don't discount or like downplay these kind of hobbies that you have, because hell, look at me. I'm in a shed doing a similar type of show that is now guiding the direction of my career. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
Dude, that is so true, man. It's, yes, what you know is part of it, who you know, and, life experience and all that other stuff. Definitely huge. Love that. So, all right, we're going to bounce around a little bit here. So we know the Colts are your favorite team. What do you think the outlook is for this year? And I got to think you like the upgrade at quarterback, right?
Yeah, definite upgrade at quarterback. I am truly in awe of how Ballard finessed that to get multiple picks from the Commanders, plus having them take all of Wentz's salary. I thought maybe we'd get like a fourth and a sixth and have to eat about 15 million of that god awful salary.
Yeah.
But he got him to take the full thing. He got a third. He got another pick that could be upgraded. And he sat back and waited and had Matt Ryan fall into his lap. Now, it's sort of, I think, a little bit of, you don't want to say that that was the plan all along, because that's a super reckless plan. If you're like, I'm going to hope that the Browns offer Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed. Right. And then, because remember the morning of, what were all the news reports, right? Like, the Falcons are going to land this thing, right? The Falcons are going to land this thing. Now, that probably shakes Matt Ryan loose anyways, but I think the way it went down, and he's kind of sitting there once Deshaun Watson bails out and goes to Cleveland, as like, what now? I think the Falcons almost felt bad, and so they gave Matt Ryan control of where he wanted to go, and the Falcons gave themselves permission essentially to enter full-blown rebuild mode. And I don't know how that goes, or if it looks different. If Deshaun Watson is on the roster, you're a contending team now. You're going for it. You don't trade for Deshaun Watson. They may have been trying to recoup higher picks that they had to give up for Watson. So who knows if the Colts have the ammo to go and get Matt Ryan. So I don't think that was the plan. I think it worked out beautifully. My outlook for the Colts this year, I think it's very similar to the Phillip Rivers year. When we were 11-5, I think that feels about right. 10-7, 11-6. I think we'll be in the mix for the AFC South. I think we'll probably be a tough out in the playoffs. I don't think we're a Super Bowl contender by any stretch, but I do like Matt Ryan as a bridge quarterback, and hopefully this year, maybe next year, we can take our quarterback of the future, and maybe we get 2 years out of Matt Ryan, and then the new quarterback takes over in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do check all the boxes, though. Like, good run game, competent quarterback, Super Bowl quarterback, damn near won one. Decent weapons. Between the run game and the defense, that's all you really need in the playoffs. Like, it's doable. But you're probably right. I mean, AFC, there's some good teams there for sure.
It's a murderer's row. If we were in the NFC, I would feel a lot better about it. I think you could make the case for the Colts at maybe 3 or 4. And I think in the AFC, you're looking at them as probably like 6 or 7,
Yeah.
And so that gets you into the playoffs. Like, that's good enough to get a playoff spot. Is it good enough to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. I just think you have to have that upper echelon quarterback, or you have to have a lot stronger team than what the Colts currently have. Like, I wouldn't say Stafford is necessarily like a top 5 quarterback. He's probably top 8, top 10. But that Rams team was just built so well, man.
Yep.
Top to bottom. They had some weaknesses. Every team does. But McVay and Les Snead did such a good job building that team that I think it's easy to see the gap from where the Colts are right now to where a team like the Rams are. So now, could we potentially, close that gap, especially with a good draft? Yes, I think so. But we've got a lot of needs that still need to be filled. Edge rusher, cornerback. We did some nice work with the Gilmore signing and the Ngakoue trade, but got to get a tackle, and you've got to upgrade the offensive weapons for Matt Ryan. I'm sorry, Paris Campbell, Ashton Doolin, they're not getting it done behind Michael Pittman. We got to get him some help.
Yeah, definitely, man. You guys are in a better spot than a lot of teams, though. So, decent outlook. I mean, Adam probably wants to eat a shotgun this year. I would bet. If Dalvin Cook plays and isn't in jail. So
yeah, it's rough. It's a rough scene for Vikings fans. I think he was ready for the teardown. He was ready for the rebuild, and you get Kwesi Odafe-Mensah in there, and he's like, I think I just actually want to re-sign everyone. I want to extend everyone and just keep this train rolling. So, I don't think Vikings fans are like too pumped up right now. They're like, wait, didn't we sign up for like a rebuild and we're just like phase 2 of this shit,
I hear you, man. It's life is tough sometimes as a Cowboys fan, but it's a lot worse for a lot of other people, and you could probably identify with that too, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I feel for him. Bobby's still on the high of the Rams Super Bowl, and Addie's just like, I don't think he's like super plugged in, but I think in his heart he still wants the Vikings to just not be like a mediocre franchise.
Yeah, that's always tough. Good stuff, man. So, all right, this is a weird wag. I got a lot of wacky questions in here. Do you have a favorite like short story from college or high school? Maybe didn't you guys all go to like college together?
So we did. A lot of us did, and we all went to high school together. Me and all my buddies. Adam and I met in middle school playing middle school basketball at Drakes Creek Middle School. Bobby, I knew growing up. We had played baseball together in Little League. He was a year ahead of me. We played on the Greenwood baseball team together in high school. So that's how we knew Bobby. We invited him to join our long-running home league, which I think is like 15 or 16 years old at this point. So that's how we knew him. That's how Adam and Bobby were both in that original league. They joined the XFFL, which is our RSO league that led to that podcast, which led to this podcast. So that's sort of the continuum of how all three of us came to do the IDP show. But yeah, so this is a little bit after college, but it involves a lot of my friends because I'm fortunate to still be friends with all my best buddies from high school. They still all live here in Bowling Green. But we so we made an annual pilgrimage to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's one of the closest kind of big cities. And my aunt's ex-husband, my dad's sister, her ex-husband, Mark Barry, was the third base coach for the Reds for 10, 15 years, very long time. Yeah. And so he always used to hook us up with the best tickets, like, a decade plus after they had divorced. We could always call up Uncle Mark and get tickets. So we'd make a pilgrimage up to Cincinnati. We'd spend the night. We'd hit up the casino. We'd go to the Reds. We'd have a good time. And so one year, we decide to order pizza. This is fresh out of college, so you can imagine the alcohol consumption is high. Mm-hmm. The decision-making is low.
Sure.
And so we have this pizza, and we're probably about like, I don't know, 7 or 8 stories up at this hotel. And one of my buddies, who will remain nameless, but he knows what he did. He took the garlic butter from the pizza, went out to the balcony, and I'm talking like Dan Marino in his prime, chucked this thing down towards the street. It hits a car's windshield, and
Oh no.
it was like double the volume of garlic butter that should have been in this package for how much splattered on this guy's windshield. Here's the best part. Of course, this guy, he's got garlic butter all over his windshield. There's no way that he can see. There's no way he can see who it was that threw the garlic butter. Right? There's a homeless guy sleeping on the bench next to the car. And so we don't think anything of it. We close the door, we close the balcony door. We're laughing, we're goofing, we're having a good time. I think they were playing cards or something. About probably 30 to 45 minutes later, boom, 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 we get a knock on the door. Ooh. We open it up. There's the police.
Oh no.
Of course, everyone's shit-faced. So I don't drink, so I'm the only one sober enough to answer the door. Of course, I'm like 23. I'm terrified, right? There's a cop at the door. It's like 2 a.m. And the cop says, have you all been throwing things from the balcony? And I was like having an out-of-body experience. So I was like, have we been throwing things from the balcony? And I was like, no. And so he's like, oh, well, we have a witness that says that he saw you throw the garlic butter from your balcony. The homeless dude sold us out to the Fuzz. The Fuzz kick us out of the hotel. We have to drive back to Bowling Green in the middle of the night. We don't get back to like 6 a.m. And that was the last time I think we went on that Cincinnati trip.
Oh my God, man. What are the odds? How did the guy, did you guys like hang on the balcony to watch the damage? Is that how the homeless guy saw?
No, I think he just must have been like, he must have seen us like right after it happened, because we ducked back in pretty quick, and he must have just like been like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like he must have counted the stories and then kind of eyeballed where the room was. And then the officer probably took that. He's like, yeah, middle of the building, 7 floors up, what room is that? And it's like, oh yeah, that's like 8 idiots that are like 22 years old that ordered a pizza earlier. So we like crammed the pizza box under the mattress to try and hide it, bro. It was like, like young 20s decision making is questionable at best. So that's our Cincinnati story. If you go to that hotel in Cincinnati, I bet they have a picture of all of us behind the desk of like, do not let these people stay here.
Dude, I could so identify with that. Oh man, I'm looking forward to when I do that Kentucky trip with you guys, because we could just trade dumbass stories all day.
Oh,
that's gonna be great. Yeah, we got pulled over after a Jets Browns game one time, and this was, I don't think this was the game where I used my check as a ticket to get back in because I was blackout drunk. This was a different one because I drove home. And the cop just was like, I rolled down the window and he's like, you got to get out of that car. Everything smells like booze. Like I only had like, 1 or 2 beers before halftime. So he let us go. But it was just like, that's the dumb shit that happens, when you're that age, right? Just
yes.
All kinds of horrible decisions. We burned a Tom Brady effigy in the parking lot at Jet Stadium with lighter fluid. None of it makes any sense now, but at the time, like you're like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do that. Like
at the time, it's like, well, of course we have to do this, right? Like there's no other choice but to do this. And now looking back, like decade plus later, you're like, we were idiots. Like, my God, how did we not like get ourselves killed multiple times? Like, why did our parents ever let us leave the house together?
Dude, there is a good amount of luck involved with being a male and surviving to like, full brain development. What is that? Like early 30s or late 20s, 28, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's amazing that Darwinism doesn't claim more of our dumbasses just every year with the dumb stuff that 20-something males do.
That is 100% true. But you made it through, and now you're a responsible adult. So tell us, what did you rocking any family or pets these days? That's a real question in there.
Rocking any family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocking a wife and a son, 3 dogs. Yeah. So my wife is Allie. We've been married for, oh my God, it'll be 11 years this year. So we got married when we were super duper young. I don't know what the hell our parents were thinking. It was 2011. So she was literally 22. I was 23. But like they said, we weren't going to take no for an answer. So we got married young. We had PAX in 2020, literally right before the pandemic hit.
Ooh.
Like 2 to 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. And so he is a little over 2 years old now. He's just the absolute best. I will say this though, Johnny. I talk to a lot because I'm in that phase right now. I'm in the divorce and like kids phase, not a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like people getting married in like my circle of friends anymore. It's divorces and kids.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't like the parents who say like, "Oh, I can't even remember what life was like before my kids." I'm like, I can. Life was awesome. Like, are you high? Like kids are great. Kids are great. What I've told everyone, so this is not just like sensationalized for the podcast. Having a kid is like anything. There are mountaintop highs, there are soul crushing lows, and most of it is just like everything else in life. It's just sort of like just like normal everyday life stuff. Like making breakfast, playing with, coloring in the coloring book and
Yeah.
changing diapers and going to swim lessons. Like it's I don't like this like romanticizing parenthood. Like it's awesome. I love my kid. I truly can't imagine life without him now that he's here. I can remember what it was like, and it was really cool and a lot of fun. But like, I want to shake parents. I'm like, you can still have a life. You can have an identity outside of your kid, right? Like, so, and to each their own. For some folks, their kids are their world. That's fine. But one thing I love about Allie and I is we have always said like, we love PAX. He's awesome. He loves us. It's great. But we have a life outside of our kid. Like we have a marriage, we have friends, we have passions and careers and hobbies. And you don't just like, don't throw all that away because now you get to have a little buddy that you hang out with who's like part of your family and lives in your house. Like, still be yourself, still do the things that light you up because otherwise, parenting, it does take a lot out of you, and you don't want to be pouring from an empty cup, right? Like you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be
Yep.
just a shell of a person at a time when you need to be like as, kind of the
You need to
best
be a full
version of
person.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like you're being challenged in new ways and you have new things that are going to excite you and frustrate you. So like you need to have that balance so that you can come at this with like being refreshed, right? And not just like totally burned out and drained every day. So yeah, that's the family. And I got 3 dogs. They're fine.
Yeah, it's not a curse, right? It's a good thing, and yeah, I've seen that take too. Some people like it's the worst. It's a terrible. I've got a kid. It's a terrible thing. Like no, if you plan for it properly and you make that conscious decision, then it's a really good thing, and you can do it properly. And I love what you say about the rest of your life. Variety is the spice of life too, right? Like we see this all the time in this hellhole that we are part of the community of. Like this is everyone's only existence is this shit. Like no, this is a small part of my existence. This is not who I am. It's one thing I do out of many.
Yeah, man. And if you say like, "Oh, having a kid is awful," you're just a miserable sack of shit anyways, and now you're going to dump that misery on your kid. Like your kid doesn't suck, you suck. Like let's just have a little bit of a wake up call here, folks. Like Your kid is not the reason your life is miserable. Your life is miserable, and now your kid has to suffer through that. But at the other end of the spectrum too, like having a kid is not like the be all end all. Like you're not a complete person just because you have a kid now, right? That's why Al and I waited 8 years before we had Pax, was because we wanted to live a full life as a married couple before we brought a kid into this world. We wanted to have our shit together and figured out before we brought Pax into this. Now, if he had decided to come a little early, we would have figured it out, right? But like, I don't like living in this world of extremes of kids are the greatest thing ever or kids are the worst thing ever. Kids are like anything else. They're fine. They're fine. They're great sometimes. They're awful sometimes. Most of the time, like most people, right? They're just little people. Most people are fine. They're fine, It's just kind of ho-hum. Like, let's chill out with this like whole parenting hot takes, man. I'm sick of it. I'm here to tear down big parent is what I'm here to do.
Yeah. F those people. Yeah. I knew this was going to be a good one. Adams is going to be a real shit show. I can't wait to do that one.
Just send him like 6 like craft beers beforehand, and you'll get some really unfiltered stuff in that one.
Yeah, 6 craft beers and a line of meth.
You don't have to send him that. He has it sitting in his chair right over here.
Oh shit. So okay, so you mentioned that you guys had the home league that eventually transferred into XFFL. When was the decision made to get into fantasy football and then eventually IDP? What did that look like?
So I started playing fantasy. It was 2002. My first draft pick was Marvin Harrison because I was a Colts fan. And so we started that home league. I think it's like 15 or 16 years we've done our main home league. So we would have started that like 2005, 2006. And so then we did that for, I guess, about a decade, and then decided to get into reality sports online. I was hearing ads for their platform on like the Ross Tucker football program. And so I was looking for this like NFL GM experience, sort of like Madden franchise mode. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do a reality sports online league. We're going to do, and we actually joined a league. The commissioner was a total maniac. So we left that league. But before I left, I literally copied all of his league settings and then went and set up an identical league. That league was the NFFL. So because we had left, right, we were the XFFL. And so we started that league, and it was full IDP because, again, I was looking for the closest thing to like an NFL GM experience. That included defense. I wasn't really planning on getting into IDP, but that was the logical evolution with what I wanted from my fantasy football experience. So we started that league in 2016. We started doing the XFFL podcast, and then probably started that in like 2017 and did that through like maybe 2018, and did that 2018, 2019. And then in July of 2019, Bobby, Adam, and I, who had been doing the XFFL pod, said, what if we just did a pod that was like aimed at everybody, not just the 9 other people in this league? And so that's how that journey has evolved from a home league to, a RSO league to a league podcast to an IDP podcast.
Nice. I love that, man. And I love your first pick there, old 50 cal Marv.
Hey, look, you got to protect your home turf. We love Marv. Doesn't mess around. Like, man, a few words. Like, go back and show me an interview where Marvin Harrison said more than 100 words. What is it? Speak softly and carry 2 blammers with you, I think is the saying goes.
Right.
That's how it goes.
Speak softly and carry a Belgian Desert Eagle 50 caliber handgun that you shoot off at your car wash after you retire.
That sounds like a gun that you unlock in like Call of Duty or something. Like, that doesn't even sound like a real gun.
I remember the story like it was yesterday.
It's
Because
incredible. And
it
nobody
wasn't,
talks
because
about
that's
it.
not him, right? Because that was so unlike him. That's what stuck with it. I was like, there's no fucking way. That can't be true. And then I read it.
You know what it was? He's the Gus Fring of the NFL, right? Like this mild-mannered guy, never says anything, upstanding, does everything right. And behind the scenes, this dude's like, he's like on the streets, like keeping it real, man, like packing heat under every car seat.
I love that. All right. So, how about besides, fantasy? Any other? I mean, obviously, you are a man of culture. You know that variety is the spice of life. So, what are some of your hobbies besides fantasy football? And do you enjoy watching or any other sports playing fantasy?
So other sports, I'll start with that one. I love sports. I'm obviously football is my bread and butter. I don't miss the NFL any week that it's on. I watch college football, college basketball. Like I'll plug in during March Madness or during the football playoff. I'm watch a little bit of NBA playoffs. I even watch some MLB. So I am not one of those kind of snobs that says, "Oh no, I don't watch XYZ." If it's on and people are enjoying it, man, and I would never, maybe like NASCAR is not my thing, but like if someone's super into NASCAR, that's cool, man. I've always said, especially live sporting events, I'll go see anything. I'd love to
Yep.
see Wimbledon. I'd love to see the Masters. I'd love to see a NASCAR race or go down to another hockey game with the Nashville Predators. Like all of that stuff is fun. I enjoy the atmosphere of live sports. So just about anything, but mainly football, a little bit of college sports here and there. Outside of sports, writing, traveling, those are probably my two biggest passions. Allie and I did this exercise probably like 2 years ago when we were driving back from somewhere, and we tried to count up how many trips we had taken together as a couple. So this would have been like 8 or 9 years into our marriage. I
Yeah.
think the number was north of like 50
Whoa.
that we had taken. So 8 years, that's like what, like 6 trips a year, which sounds about
Woo.
right. About every 2 months, we will take some kind of trip, not a full blown like week long vacation, but we will go somewhere and do something. So we're actually going to Mexico the first week of May.
Mm.
We're going to live in Italy for a month in July. So
Wow.
like taking Pax with us, so that'll be hilarious. His little fat ass will gain probably like 5 or 6 pounds eating pasta for an entire month. So I know he's excited about that. So yeah, writing, traveling. Besides sports, I love watching TV. Probably have like 40 TV shows that I try to keep up with. Allie and
Yeah,
I love to watch TV together.
Marvel, and yeah, we've got the Marvel chat, the MCU and IDP chat. Yeah.
That's right. One of my favorites. Yeah, we keep up with all the MCU movies, the TV shows. So, I'm a comic book geek, like I'm sure a lot of folks in IDP are. Yeah, spending time with the fam. We talked about watching games on Sundays. Just got back into video games actually with the new Halo coming
Mm.
out. So, like me, Adam, Connor, and a few of our buddies just played last night actually, and we are extremely washed. We are not good at all. Like we're trying to relive the glory days from like middle school and high school. It's not working, but it's fun. It's again, I am one of those people that Malcolm Gladwell describes it in his book as like a connector, right? That there are these types of people that bring dissimilar groups together. And I've always likened myself to that kind of role in the world of like, I love bringing people together, especially people who maybe normally wouldn't have interacted with each other. And so, like, when I did the dodgeball team, that was my greatest thrill I took out of that was like a lot of the guys who met playing dodgeball that probably would not have met otherwise
Yeah.
are like still best friends to this day in each other's weddings. Like that stuff is like really cool. So as silly as like, it is that we're trying to like play a bunch of 14-year-olds in Halo Infinite. It's fun and it's a good excuse for us to all get together and just hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. That's what it's all about, right? Like too many people take happiness and put it like on across the room, like up over the fireplace, and I'll have happiness if, and happiness will, I'll get it when. No, you can get it today. Now it's a state of mind. It's the little things. It's enjoying life as life happens, and not putting it off until you're rich and famous and all that other dumb shit. Like it's doable today, right now.
That's right. I was reading today. It was a great kind of wake up call on those lines of like the farmer who watches the clouds never plants a seed.
Ooh.
So it's like, don't wait. Like, you don't know what life is going to bring. Like, don't wait for the perfect time to, you know, make the job change, to make the move, to go on that trip, to ask the girl out, like, whatever, man. Like, one thing that has been kind of life affirming doing this podcast is we've had a lot of really awesome people on our show. And Sigmund Bloom actually said this to us. He said, "You just wouldn't believe how many people never ask.
Mm.
They never ask." And so I've really taken that to heart of like, I'm going to ask. Why not? The worst thing they say is no, or maybe they ignore us. But what if they say yes? And so
Yeah.
I kind of approach life's opportunities that way of, yeah, maybe it won't work out. Maybe nothing will happen. But what if it does? And we're so guilty of that, like only looking at the glass half empty, pessimistic view of the outcomes that could come to pass. But we never stop to live in that world of like, what if a good thing does happen, you know? So I'm with you, man. Don't delay it. Don't put it up on the shelf because you're going to be, 85 years old on your deathbed wishing that you had gone after it when you had the chance, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Gotta live a little. Yeah, no doubt. So I think one of the weird slash funny things I've noticed in this podcast, the last 4 episodes here, is the ridiculous back and forth where it's like we're talking about these life lessons, and then now I'm going to ask you what your favorite early IDPs are.
I know, right? The narrative whiplash and tonal whiplash is it's incredible. It's incredible. That's what makes it special, though, Johnny. It's like if you're like, all right, enough of the the softy talk, like get to the IDP, and then you have the guy over here who's like, this is so beautiful. Like, just wait, because it's going to change. It's going to change here very soon. So, my favorite IDP. So I kept this to when I actually started doing IDP. And for me, it was Bobby Wagner. So this
Mm.
is the first auction we had with Reality Sports Online. Bobby Wagner was the IDP who stayed on my roster the longest after that initial auction. So I think he was actually on my team when I won the championship in 2018 in that league. So for me, it's B Wags, walk-in Hall of Famer, IDP on the IDP Mount Rushmore for me. I mean, the dude is just awesome, absolute legend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can't argue with B-Wags. Everyone's got their favorite, right? So for me, it was probably London Fletcher, but everyone, it's usually an inside linebacker that everyone goes to as their favorite. God, Luke Kuechly, Patrick Willis, guys like that. I heard DeQuell Jackson, Tipster Gary, IDP Tipster Gary said DeQuell
Yep.
Jackson. I was like, oh man, that's a name. Yeah, I could see that because that dude was just a quiet $120 plus of combined tackles every year for a decade. Like that nothing wrong with that.
Had him on the Colts for a bit, so I remember DeQuell Jackson very fondly.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good stuff. So I know you covered a little bit how you guys got into, the podcasts and the writing and the rankings and all that. So we could probably just skip that and go to your favorite movies here and TV shows. Give me like 3 each, at least.
Sure. So I will give you my because I actually know the answer to the favorite movie.
Ooh.
As I was just talking about it tonight. Funny enough, we had dinner with our worship pastor from church. Allie was taking over some travel docs. They're like, come over for dinner. It was awesome. They made spaghetti. Pax ate like 3 spoonfuls of the meat sauce. So it was a great night. But I was telling them, I was like, yes, if you're wondering, Paxton is named for Bill Paxton because my favorite movie is Twister. And
Ooh.
Allie and I were sitting there when she was pregnant trying to figure out names. And uh, Bill Paxton's name came up on the screen. It was like the 800th time we were watching Twister. And so we said, Paxton, that's actually pretty good. So from then on out, he was Paxton. And so I was, okay. So our worship pastor was like, all right, why Twister? I was like, that's a great question. Because I don't think anyone, and I wouldn't even say it's like the best movie ever made. But for me, my favorite movies are all about nostalgia.
Mm.
When I was growing up, I would spend a lot of time in the summer because I was not at school. My parents had to work, right? I would spend a lot of time with my dad's parents, my mama and papa, who lived right down the street. And so we would spend a lot of time with them, and they had this awesome VHS tape movie collection in their like big media cabinet, right? And it was all of the classics. I'm talking like Miss Doubtfire, Twister, Men in Black, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Air Force One, like just I could go on and on and on about all the movies that were in this movie collection. And so all of my favorite movies, like Miss Doubtfire is probably my second favorite movie. They all come from this VHS tape collection that my grandparents had that I would just watch time after time after time growing up. So, uh, is it the best movie ever made? No, but it is my favorite because when I'm searching out and defining what favorite means, it's the one that I think brings me the greatest level of comfort and joy and brings back really fun memories. So that is my favorite movie.
I love that, man. And yeah, that's what a good movie should do is move you emotionally in, some direction. And nostalgia is definitely a good way to do that. Bill Paxton, a hell of an actor too. So
So great.
in Aliens, man, like that was so different for him playing like the panicked Marine, but that, eventually mans up at the end. Like that was such a good role for him. Like, solid actor.
Love Bill Paxton. It was a great namesake, and I look forward to the day when I can explain to Paxton where he got his name from. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll have to do like a Bill Paxton movie marathon or something. So I actually have as well my answer for favorite TV shows because
Mm.
I look at TV shows like the Mount Rushmore, right? Because I probably prefer TVs to movies. And so I have a harder time selecting favorite TV shows just because I watch a lot more TV than I do movies. So for me, the Mount Rushmore, and this has not changed. I mean, like I said, I'm probably, if you check my TV Time app, I'm watching like 40 shows right now, but this has not changed. And I don't know that it will. So the Mount Rushmore for me, Breaking Bad,
Mhm.
Justified, set in
Mm.
Eastern Kentucky.
Mhm.
Fantastic show. They're bringing it back. Little revival
Ooh.
action. Yeah, so very exciting. Parks and Rec, and then Friday Night Lights.
Oh, okay. Is Timothy Olyphant coming back for that, or are they
Yes.
recasting it? Oh,
So
Timothy is. Ooh.
Timothy is, yes. He is the one character they have confirmed is coming back. I believe it's called it's from a book Primeval or something, like Justified Primeval. So I want to say it's like set in New Orleans, maybe. So it's sort of like Dexter New Blood, where it's like a continuation. I think we're gonna have a little bit of like a uh it'll harken back to the original series. But yes, it still stars Timothy Olyphant as Raylan Givens.
Nice. He was incredible in Deadwood too, by the way. Great show there. Yeah, can't argue with that list. I think Breaking Bad's probably on everyone's list, like all time. That's a true classic right there.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Better Call Saul. Just came on. Season 6 premiere was last night, so that's been excellent. I don't know if it has surpassed Breaking Bad. It may end up because of the fact that even though it's a prequel, uh, you have Vince Gilligan and company just at the height of their powers. Breaking Bad took a little bit to become what it became in later seasons, whereas Saul, by virtue of them ironing out these creases early on in Breaking Bad's run, they were firing on all cylinders right out the gate. Now, is the narrative with the prequel series as engrossing as what we saw with Walter White, becoming this meth kingpin? I would argue no. So I think that's why Breaking Bad will ultimately be seen as the superior offering. But in terms of just craftsmanship, I think Better Call Saul has that show beat at this point, just because, it those filmmakers, they aged like a fine wine. They're playing in the same sandbox, and they've already worked out all the kinks, man. Like, that show hit the ground running and was excellent from day one. So if you haven't checked it out, watch. If you haven't watched either, watch Better Call Saul and then watch Breaking Bad. I think you will highly enjoy both of those.
Nice, nice. Good recommendations there. Okay, so couple IDP questions here. So you got like maybe a handful of sleepers that you're banging the drum for this year? I've heard a couple names a couple times so far this year with that question. So interested to see what you think on that.
So I've got a good one for you. This comes compliments of our boy DFF Trip, who pointed this out as part of our work with the IDP Draft Kit. Divine Diablo, double D. And here's the cheat code. He's playing linebacker now for the Las Vegas Raiders, but on those platforms where he maintains the DB designation, as Tripp pointed out, because he's now in a full-time linebacker role, has top 5 DB potential as a full-time starting linebacker. So Divine Diablo, double D, awesome name, good IDP sleeper.
I love that. That's a really solid one. Jordan Whitehead too. That was Kyle's. Who did Gary? Oh, Gary had Cameron Bynum, which I hadn't even considered it, but that is a great call, because if that doesn't change from last year and he does take Xavier Woods' starting slot as a safety, that's a corner with a full-time safety role. And Xavier Woods had good numbers last year. So yikes, that'd be crazy. We'll see how it shakes out, but those are some good ones, I think.
Yeah, and then another Trip original here. So people, check out the draft kit. Like, these are the nugs that you're getting. Bilal Nichols, and I'll save the reasoning why for the draft kit, but check it out. I actually went and drafted Bilal Nichols in an IDP best ball just off the strength of Tripp's write-up that he had. So check it out, the idpdraftkit.com. But Bilal Nichols in DT required leagues could be a nice little D tackle target that you can get later in drafts.
Love that. We always need DTs, that's for sure. So for you, what's your Mount Rushmore all time? So you could get 4. Most people have done everything except corner. So DT, DE, inside linebacker, pass rush, or safety rather, or linebacker safety rather. But you play it however you want. Just need 4 guys. Your Mount Rushmore all time IDP greats.
Well, this should not surprise you. Number 1 is Bobby Wagner. I mentioned he's on, and the way I approached this was greatness, yes, but also I like the underappreciated kind of unsung heroes of IDP. That's who I wanted to put on my Mount Rushmore, because they don't necessarily get their name up in lights like some other IDPs, but they just keep producing for you year in and year out. So for me, it was Bobby Wagner, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, and Levante David.
Oh, I love that. There is a lot of consistency there in that list. Yeah.
Absolutely. They just solid producers, not necessarily the superstars, but I think in terms of what I appreciate about IDP, those guys got to be on there.
Yeah, love that. Yep, those guys are great. And Levante David is going stupid late this year. I don't know what's going on with that, but I've grabbed him a lot of places really late. It's wild.
Do people think he's retired or something? I'm not sure what's going on, folks, but Levante David is still going to be like a top 24 linebacker. Like, nothing's changed. They still have Tom Brady. Whatever we had the past 2 years, just pencil that in again for 2022.
Yeah, definitely. Harrison Smith too, also going super late this year. So, just because they're a little bit older, that doesn't, they're still going to produce. So, yeah, the dynasty mindset has poisoned the brains of people.
I do. That's what I've appreciated about doing these best balls this year, is that it has forced me to get out of my dynasty mindset, which is primarily the way the format I play IDP in. So it's helped me come back to loving some of these older veteran guys, some guys a little closer to my age. So it's good to have balance, as you said, Johnny.
That's it. Variety is the spice of life. Speaking of predictions, or maybe not, that wasn't predictions. Whatever. We're talking about predictions. So let's do some predictions. Let's start with your ones for this year, and then we'll do a ridiculously early Super Bowl winner. So, who do you think, if you had to pick now, would be the inside linebacker one at the end of this season for IDP?
So I told you my goal was to find names that probably aren't bubbling up for the top of the list for most people, right? Your Roquans, your Aaron Donalds, your TJ Watts. I wanted to go different. I wanted to pull some different names for you. So inside linebacker, I am going with the Seahawks, Jordan Brooks.
Ooh, I like that. That is a legit possibility. Yeah.
Get a Cody Barton season, fill in the blank rookie season. I don't care. Jordan Brooks is now the guy there, inheriting the Bobby Wagner role, which has been super profitable for IDP now for almost a decade. I think I think he's for most people inside their top like 7 or 8. And for me, if I'm looking at like odds, if it was listed up there on the board in Vegas, I really like his potential to finish as the LB1 for your IDP squad in 2022.
Yeah, that's a good call, man. And when was the last time IDP Twitter was right on the inside linebacker one? When Leonard was a excuse me, a rookie, no one called that. Jordan Hicks that year, no one called that. Foye Lucan last year, no one called that. We're wrong a lot.
Yeah, predicting things is very hard, especially predicting one spot out of, however many linebackers are actually in contention for this. Probably, I don't know, like 24 to 35, somewhere in that number you have of guys that you could realistically make a case for. Um, that's tough, man. Like those are not good odds to try to pick the guy that finishes as the LB1. But I'm going with Jordan Brooks.
Nice, love that. How about pass rush linebacker, outside linebacker?
So this one was a little tougher. I threw some look and some love toward Bradley Chubb, but I ultimately ended up going with the man the Tennessee Titans opened up the bag for in Harold Landry.
Ooh, I could see that. I could definitely see that. He he kind of quietly had a really, really good year last
I
year.
was just getting ready to say a lot of people it flew under the radar. This kind of outside linebacker role is one, especially in leagues where you don't have the edge designation. These guys are a little stinky just because of scoring and positional designation. But low key, Harold Landry had a very nice season in 2021.
Yeah, definitely, dude. I could see that. I could see that. And TJ Watt's made of glass, so he'll miss a few games as is tradition. How about defensive end? Who you got at DE1 this year?
So this is one I didn't have to dig for because I've been pounding the drum for this for a little bit, but it's Daniil Hunter. I mean, this guy was
Ooh.
tearing it up before the injury last season, and now he gets to play opposite of Zadarius Smith. He finally has that Everson Griffin replacement. This is when we saw Daniil Hunter do his best work, was when he had a running mate alongside him who could actually carry his own weight. So give me Daniil Hunter as the DN1.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, you're right. And he was matching Garrett basically game for game until that injury last year. So that was good stuff. How about defensive tackle?
This should come as no surprise since I'm a Colts fan. Give me DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. He had a little bit of a down year last year, but compared to like 49ers years, but it was still an excellent, top 3, top 4 defensive tackle finish. Like he could easily do it. Yeah.
There's a lot of good candidates here. You could say Jeffrey Simmons. You could say Quinnen Williams. You could say Christian Wilkins. For me, I thought, I think this might be the year we're bringing in, Yannick Ngakwe.
Yep.
Year 2 step up for Kwity Paye. We got Dio, the guy from Vandy coming in. Maybe we take somebody in the draft. Maybe somebody's there at that 40th pick, maybe like an Ajabo or something. I know he's maybe a year away with the Achilles injury, but someone of that ilk, right, who could even provide more help along that defensive line. Suddenly, DeForest Buckner has some reinforcements. I don't know. I think that the possibility is there. It is in his range of outcomes to finish as the D tackle 1.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. What about safety? This is the one I have not gotten the same answer twice yet, so interested to see what you think here.
I think there'd be a lot of people probably pounding the drum for guys like Derwin James,
Mm-hmm.
Uda Baker, Jamal Adams. I am going with the man from the Carolina Panthers. Give me Jeremy Chin as the safety 1 for 2022.
Nice. Now we do have that answer twice.
Who else guessed Jeremy Chin? I'm curious.
I think it was Nate, and I kind of tend to agree. Why not, right? Like, he's been on pace for this before. We've seen him. It's possible. We know he can do it. I don't know what happened last year. It was kind of a weird year, but normal Jeremy Chin puts him right there for safety 1, and I don't see why we don't get normal Jeremy Chin this year.
I mean, what was he his rookie season? He was like safety 2, safety 3, 4. Like, he was in the top 5, right? His rookie season.
Yeah, he did extremely well. Yeah. So yeah,
So
no, I could definitely see that, and I love that dual position for him too. And I mean, in sleeper, but yeah, it's nice, right? It gives, especially in those best balls, it gives you some versatility on bye weeks and injuries and stuff like that.
Yep. So I think that was my goal here, was like guys that have been close before, that have been in the discussion. I'm not trying to pull like a rabbit out of my ass here with like some crazy prediction, right? But I want to get guys that have been like on the front porch, that have access to the door, right? They can kick the door down this year and finish as the number 1 guy at their position. So yeah, Jeremy Chin at safety for me.
Nice. And how about the hardest of them all, corner?
Yeah, man, it's just like pick a card, any card, right? I mean,
Although I guessed it right last year.
that's right. Well, you are the cornerback whisperer. We got streamers and steamers coming soon, folks. So look forward to that. But for me, I'm going with the man who, before the Browns gave the bag to Denzel Ward, was the big winner of the offseason at the cornerback position. I'm going J.C. Jackson of the
Ooh.
Los Angeles Chargers as your CB1 for 2022.
I like that. I like that. The only thing that scares me on that, and you got to be somewhat scared of this too as a Colts fan, is just when free agents leave the Patriots, something happens.
It's like the magic sauce that the Looney Tunes have in Space Jam, right? It's like
Yeah.
Belichick takes that away when you like that and your key card and your iPad. You don't get the secret sauce anymore when you leave New England.
He's so good though. I mean, look at his numbers last year, and you guys remember this. He didn't tap out more than like 70% of snaps a game. Like, Belichick was insane for not playing him and Duggar Moore each week. I don't know what he was smoking, but he'll play on the Chargers, and that's a more kind of pass happy division, better weather. Like, those things matter a little bit. So
Wheels up for JC Jackson. Great team, big contract. And we've seen this kind of fallacy that, I believed in, and I still think there is at least some merit to it, even if it has been proven erroneous more recently, that great cornerbacks don't get thrown at, thus they aren't super valuable for IDP. We saw Jalen Ramsey have a great season last year. Kenny Moore have a great season. We saw JC Jackson finish inside the top 12. So give me JC Jackson. I think there is reason to be optimistic that he could finish at the top of his position for IDP.
yeah, definitely. I like that. That's a good guess, and that's an original guess, so I like it. How about stupid early Super Bowl? Who you got in the Super Bowl?
I'm going Bills Packers. I think this is
Ooh.
finally the year that Josh Allen ascends to the throne. I think the Packers, they need a little help now at wide receiver. But I don't know, man. It's just that NFC. Do we see the Rams maybe with a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover? Can the Bucks do it with some of the guys they've lost? And where are the other challengers, right, inside the NFC? Your Cowboys, I think, will be in the mix, but like
No.
Eagles, Giants, Commanders, no thank you.
Yeah. Niners are
NFC,
about to lose Debo.
yeah, and starting Trey Lance, which I think will be great for fantasy, great for NFL. We'll see.
Yeah, no.
Cardinals, who knows what happens with the Munchkin, Kyler Murray, if they bring him back or ship him out of town. So I just don't see it. Bears are a hot mess. Lions are a hot mess. Vikings are meh. I mean, there just isn't a lot there. And so I think I always default to who's the best quarterback, right? Like if all things are kind of up in the air and there are other factors that we need to weight, I'm always going to overweight the quarterback. So give me the 2-time reigning MVP back-to-back against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I also got Bills on the AFC side. It's not the Chiefs, not without Tyreek Hill. That's for damn sure. And I just don't. I think the Bills have the most firepower over there. And yeah, NFC, man, it's gonna be tough. But you're right. The Rams, they just won it. The hunger isn't there like it normally would be. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. But I like that. That's an original pick so far. So good stuff.
Love it. 2 for 2.
All right. Well, we've got a few more here, wrapping up with wacky questions. So, if you won the lotto tomorrow, what would you do the rest of your life?
Invest in real estate, retire, and travel the rest of my life.
Really?
Yes. I would love, people are like, oh, I love what I do. I would do what I do now for work, even if they didn't pay me. Bullshit. I would retire tomorrow if I could retire tomorrow and just like travel and see the world and write and just pod and do the things that I love with like no strings attached. Like, are you kidding me? That sounds incredible. So yeah, invest it in real estate, have some passive income coming in, find a good financial advisor, be smart with my money, travel, see the world, and just do what I want to do with who I want to do it with.
Nice. I love that. That's a great answer. Kyle said he wanted to build a custom golf course around like a house on a lake.
That's very on brand for Kyle, and I'm sure the fridge would always be stocked with Molson.
Yeah, absolutely. How about this? If you could time travel to see any point in history, what would it be and why? It could be a historical event, could be something personal, whatever you want.
I would go back and see what Jesus was like, man. I mean, I feel like he'd be a pretty cool dude. We've been watching The Chosen. He was there at the wedding where he turned the water into wine. That wedding looked like an incredibly fun time. I don't know. Take me back. Let me hang out with Jesus. Let me see what he was like. Let me see what life was like. I mean,
Ooh.
it's easy to get like an idea or sort of like broad strokes of what life might have been like. But as we're watching this show, which I think is very well done at portraying what the times in the Bible were like, it's Allie had this comment of like watching these people just live. Like, can you imagine that? That was what life was like. Like you did
Yeah.
a little bit of manual labor. You went and fetched your water from the well. You went and bought your food or caught your food if you were like a fisherman. You had people over to your home. You went to bed at like 6 p.m. or whenever the sun went down. I mean, it was just a totally different way of life. And so I would love to be able to kind of experience that. Like the reason we're going to Italy for a month is just to live in Italy, to just experience that, not as a tourist, but as just sort of immersing ourselves in it and just living and breathing it for an extended period of time. So send me back, let me hang out with Jesus and see what life was like around like 32 AD.
I like that. Kyle said something similar. He said, go back to the pyramid times and see how they were built, live back then for a little bit. That would be just, shit. We take things for granted now as spoiled ass Americans. Like, could you imagine a 32-year life expectancy, no air conditioning, no cars, no medicine, no technology? Like, it was just different times, man.
That's what it was. I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been our pastor during a recent sermon said, Cleopatra, one of the richest people to ever walk the face of the earth, never held that iPhone that you can't wait to get rid of to get the new green iPhone 12 or whatever the hell it is. So that was a good reminder of like we don't consider ourselves maybe fortunate or blessed, but like you look historically
Mm,
at like the conditions that people had to live in, hell, even like 200 years ago, let alone 2000 years ago, and it's like those people never drove a car. Those people never had a phone. Those people didn't have air conditioning or toilets or food in the fridge or water in the tap. Like, yeah, man, I think it would just be a great reminder of like, holy shit, like we really are like super fortunate just to have a place to sleep and a roof over our head and food on the table every night, right?
that's it, man. Perspective is huge. It's important. A lot of us lose track of it. I think just from talking to you though, I know you're pretty good about that. You keep that in mind, and I try and surround myself with people that are like that. That's why I can't stand a lot of the people on fucking IDP Twitter or fantasy Twitter in general.
That's why you don't like the community, Johnny.
Yeah, the community can cram it up their ass. Like, there's more to life than this, and yeah, perspective is huge. We do have it really, really good. We really do.
And here's one thing I've tried to always be really mindful of and incorporate into my life is like, you know, I think it's easy to feel like, especially as you get older and you're settled and things are good, like, man, I'm feeling like I got this all figured out, right? Like as like a parent of a 2-year-old, I'm talking to folks who are about to have a kid, like, well, maybe think about this or we did this and like, but it's life recently has taught me that you really don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot, even at the age we're at now, that we just don't know because we don't have the life experience because we're, still growing, still learning, still experiencing this wacky adventure that we call life. And so I've always tried to surround myself with people who are just a little bit older than me, people who are in a different season of life. I'm 34. I try to find folks like, in their early to mid 50s, late 40s, different aged kids that are, getting ready to get married. And I try to not just like spend time with them in like more conventional settings where maybe that exchange of information would happen, like a small group or a mentoring program or something like that. I try to be friends with these folks and I try to spend time with them, right? Because not only do I love them and I love spending time with them and they're awesome people, you can learn so much by just acknowledging the fact that you don't know everything. In fact, you don't know a lot. And if you can keep an open mind to that, man, I've always found tremendous value in spending time with folks who are just a little bit older than me because they have that life experience. That's the thing you can't shortcut. You can't
Right.
buy that. You can't find it in a book. You just have to go talk to someone, spend time with someone who's had those life experiences and just shut up and listen, dude.
I love that, man. Yep, wisdom that you can't buy wisdom.
You
That's for
cannot.
sure.
You cannot bottle it. You cannot find it online. You just have to go out and seek out people who have the wisdom that you want.
Nice, good stuff. Okay, so another wacky turn here. See, this happens a lot on this podcast. Do you think there's intelligent life in the universe beyond us?
So, Independence Day, another great movie in my grandparents' movie collection. I
Yeah.
think this is fun to think about, right? And it's fun to like imagine what it would be like if aliens did find us. But have you heard of the Fermi Paradox, Johnny?
Yes, I have heard. Yeah, and I think we're about to prove it here. To be honest with you, like I don't think we'll make it as a species past us being so violent and aggressive and having nuclear weapons. Like, just statistically, we're probably toast.
So I was on board with this idea of like the universe is so big, there's got to be other life out there. But then I come across this idea of the Fermi paradox, which is Enrico Fermi. He famously said, where is everybody? right? So for how much of the universe we've explored, how have we not found any other intelligent life if there is life out there to be found? So this paradox of with how much of the universe we have peeked into, and yet we still have no definitive signs that there is intelligent life out there in the universe besides ourselves, I'm doubtful. And I think if you, I just Googled it because I was curious, like what is the kind of consensus turning to? I think I Googled like, is there life in the universe besides our planet or something like that, right? Like, is there other life, intelligent life out there?
Mhm.
And a lot of the, I guess, scientific community is having these same kinds of doubts that what if we are alone? Why haven't we found anyone? Why has no one found us? Right. So I think it's fun to think about. I think it's a fun thought experiment, and I love being creative about what that might look like. But if I have to put a yes or no answer on it, I'm gonna say no, just because I think we would have found something by now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a yes guy, but here's the thing. I don't know if it's the Fermi one or if it's there's a different one, but there's one that states if a species, gets to a certain point where they can destroy themselves, they have to get past that to get to interstellar travel. And it's like I don't think we're getting to interstellar travel.
No, so there's a great, if you go on YouTube and look up the Fermi Paradox, there's a great like kind of animated video that explains that. And that same channel, I think, has a video talking about this same, it's like the I wish I could think of it. It's like the
Yeah.
different kind of evolutions and stages of civilization, right?
Right. Types of civilizations. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so we're one type, and
Yep.
there's another type above it that is that interstellar travel. And it's like, will we ever get to that point? Probably not, because yeah, I don't know that we're going to survive long enough to actually reach that point, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I I don't have strong feelings about this. I want to remain open-minded. I admire people who are a vehement yes. I understand where people are coming from who are a vehement no. I lean no, but I'll follow the evidence to see if there's something out there to change my mind.
Yeah, you know what? I would just like to know one way or the other, but while I'm on this planet. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. Just give me an answer. Yeah.
Die a happy man, right?
That's it. Die a happy man.
Toilet cam, and is there life outside this world?
Yeah, hey, I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much.
You have long been an easy man to please.
That's it. Just cram a traffic cone in my ass and we'll call it a night. So, what's Whiplash again? What's your favorite football memory and favorite non-football memory? Ooh.
All right, so I'll do favorite non-football memory first. I've got a few, and they are cheesy, but it's true. I would be being disingenuous if I didn't bring these up. My wedding day, it was a ton of fun. Adam was there. He flicked off the DJ famously. He was going around because my father-in-law cut him off because my friends thought we were at a winery, beautiful winery called Equus in Midway, Kentucky, which is where my in-laws live, and they stupidly thought, because they were absolutely shit blasted when they arrived at the reception, that the alcohol behind the bar at a functioning winery was wine and alcohol that we had purchased. Never mind the fact that we were in a place that literally exists to harvest grapes and create wine and house alcohol. So they thought, oh shit, we got to drink. They look at all this booze they bought. No, guys, that is the store of alcohol for the entire winery.
Oh
So
God.
my friends are completely tanked. Adam got cut off by my father-in-law, so he's going around on the dance floor stealing wine out of women's hands, drinking it, and then handing it back to them. So they were completely gone. We gave a very nice, heartfelt speech thanking everyone. They don't remember any of that. They were famously saying, "Where are Josh? Where are Allie?" We must have pissed them off. I think they just left. They didn't say bye to us. We looked right at them and said, "Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Connor." So on down the line. They don't remember any of it. So that was an amazing day. Somehow both sides of our wedding party, the stars aligned where they were all single at that same time. So there was a lot of like horny and ready to make some mistake energy on the dance floor with all these like 20 somethings. So that was an amazing day. It was a fantastic day. Paxton's birth, that was obviously a really just an incredible mix of all sorts of emotions that day. Not as fun as a wedding, but still a pretty amazing day nonetheless. And then this was one I was actually talking about tonight as well at dinner was my 30th birthday. So New York City, I got to spend some time there on the Upper West Side. We dog sat for friends of Allie, uh, who were going to visit another friend in Spain. They're like, hey, we need a dog sitter. Will you guys come stay in New York for like 8 days? We've got a free place on the Upper West Side. And Allie and I,
Ooh.
no kids at this point, were like, yes, we'd love to do that. So it was during fall break, which is in the first week of October for us here in Kentucky. My birthday's October 3rd. So we spent my 30th birthday in Brooklyn. We went to an Alamo Draft House, which we don't have those here in Bowling Green. Unfortunately, I wish we did. So saw a movie, took in the Alamo Draft House experience, walked down from that, like it was on like the third story. We went down to the first story looking for something to eat, stumbled into an amazing place called the Cobb Market there in Brooklyn. It is a place with about 30 food stands. Name a
Ooh.
type of cuisine, Johnny. It was there. We ended up, I think Allie got pierogies. I got something Italian, I think, but every single type of culture was represented at this food market. So that was incredible. We spent some time walking along the Brooklyn Promenade, which looks out over Manhattan. Absolutely gorgeous. It was sunset. And then for dinner, we had a rooftop dining experience with a gorgeous view of the Statue of Liberty peeking between these skyscrapers. So it was just one of those like, you ever have those days where in the midst of it, you're like, I'm going to remember this day for the rest of my life?
Yep. Yeah.
That was one for me. I knew just like, and I think that's hard to have that kind of perspective when you're in that moment of like, step back, 60 years from now or whatever, like you're going to remember this type of thing. But man, I remember feeling that on that day of like, this is one of the best days of my life.
Yep. Yeah, I've had it probably like, yeah, there's two that come to mind immediately. And it's, yeah, you're right. It's hard in the moment to think of that. But yeah, sometimes you just know. You're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good.
Well, Johnny, I got to turn the tables. I want to hear at least one of your best days ever. What was it?
Oh, so it actually was also a birthday. And I was just I had some people over. This was in college at Keene State in New Hampshire. Actually I was at Keene State, but I had gone home for the weekend, and my girlfriend surprised me. I didn't think she was going to show up because she lived in a different state then. We met at school, and she showed up, and everything just went right that day. I remember it was Euro Cup 2004. Portugal lost in the final. That was the morning. She showed up in the afternoon. I hit like a 70-foot jump shot when we were playing horse, and yeah, the evening was good too. Sexy time. Um, it just
Yeah, baby.
yeah, and just all my friends were there. It was just a really good day. That was just a really good day, And you got a point. Like at some point during that, I was just like, this day. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything's been great. Like I'm definitely gonna remember this.
And there are things I could point to, like mountaintop experiences I've had of like standing in the eagle's nest and looking out over the gorgeous countryside, or seeing the David for the first time, or biking across the Golden Gate Bridge and getting to spend time in Sausalito, walking through Muir Woods. Like I could point towards all of these like really cool experiences, but for me and for you, the commonality there, it was just kind of like a ordinary day. There
Yeah.
wasn't anything like completely extraordinary. Like I saw a movie, I ate at a food mart, I took a walk, and I had dinner on a rooftop like restaurant. Now, where I was pretty incredible, but the things I was doing wouldn't necessarily lend itself to like best day ever material. But I think that just proves the point of like, appreciate those days, right? Like, I think they happen so infrequently that I hope we don't overlook them because we weren't necessarily expecting that to be like the best day ever, right?
Yeah, that's that's life, man, right? Like there's a lot of those just normal kind of days, and a lot of them are really good too, right? Especially when life happens, right? When life on life's terms comes and kicks us in the junk, we'd give anything for a day like that. You know what I mean? So we got to appreciate them when they happen.
That's right. So that was some of my favorite non-football memories. For me, the favorite football memories, easy, dude. I was at the crazy 28-point comeback the Colts had over the Alex Smith-led Chiefs in the playoffs. I was in the building. We talked about leaving at halftime. We stayed around, and I will tell you, they say that smell is the sense that is strongest, that has the strongest link to memory.
Mhm.
I would say sound has a part in that discussion because I remember distinctly the sound of that arena. It was Lucas Oil Stadium. I remember the sound when they ruled that Dwayne Bowe's foot was on the sideline, fourth down. That was their attempt. Game was over. Colts had won. The most miraculous comeback, one of the most miraculous comebacks in NFL history. I will never forget the sound of that stadium. So that's an easy. I mean, we were buzzing off of that win for like a week.
Oh man, that's a hell of a game. Do you obviously you remember the Tampa Bay Colts game, right? Monday Night Football, when everyone turned it off, and I saw
Oh,
the end. I saw the end of that one just because it was Peyton. In I gave it another minute or two. I was like, it's Peyton. It's not over yet, but it's probably over, and it
that
wasn't.
is, I remember again, remember where I was, remember the specifics. We were at my Memo and Papaw's condo, Okaloosa Island, Fort Walton, Florida. Tiny. I mean, this was like, early 2000s. So box TV, probably, I don't know, like 30 inches. And, watching in like standard definition, but sitting there, me, my dad, and my brother huddled in this, rickety furniture around this box TV, watching and we kept looking at each other like this is not going to happen, right? Like we don't need to get our hopes up. This is not going to end with a Colts victory, and sure enough, man, Colts pull it out. So I remember that one very well.
Yeah, dude, Peyton could do that stuff, man. He was a freaking magician, and even that Broncos year. I mean, I know you're not a Broncos fan, but that Broncos Super Bowl he won for them, like he did just enough, to get even in
Mhm.
his old beaten up neck injury days. Like he still got that 2 point conversion pass and had some key first downs and stuff. So he was always a magician. It was always fun watching him play.
He may have been like Michael Keaton's Batman in the first two movies where he literally he couldn't turn his neck like a normal human being. He just had to rotate his whole body. And he may have had the arm strength of like a 6-year-old, but you can't take away the dude's mind. And I would put his processing up there against anyone. I
Yeah.
think he was the best at reading and deciphering defenses, toying with defenses, doing exactly what he wanted to do. I think he was a freak about that stuff. And even if he didn't have the longevity of someone like a Tom Brady, his ability to read and diagnose defenses was unparalleled.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, in the modern NFL, that's what it's all about, right? It's less and less. I could give a shit about hand size and three cone time or whatever. Like I don't care about that. Like it's about brains in the modern NFL, the quarterback position anyway. It's about brains. Peyton had that.
Yeah, it's like listening to all the draft talk about the quarterbacks, and yeah, Desmond Ritter's tiny baby hands, and you know, Malik Willis has this incredible running ability and an absolute cannon of an arm. Like, yeah, so did Jamarcus Russell. Th- like I hear, and then I hear them talk about Desmond Ritter, and I'm like, this. They say he's the best processor. Like he reads the field, and I'm like, isn't that like? Am I overthinking this? Like, don't we want the guy who can come in with the ability to read a defense? Because I I I think you can build an offense around someone's lack of arm strength. Like Joe Burrow does not have the strongest arm in the world. You can build an offense around someone who's not fleet of foot. Peyton Manning would probably run like a 7.240,
Yep.
right? Like those rocket arm, moves like Lamar Jackson, that's all great. But at the end of the day, if you cannot read a defense, you cannot play quarterback in the NFL. We've seen this time and time again. These high picks just flame out because, yeah, they had some of the tools, and that's great. But for me, I'm always going to bet on the guy who has it between the ears, can read the defenses. And guess what? If you have a demonstrated track record of doing that in college, I
Mm.
don't know. Call me crazy. That's what I'm going to lean on in my quarterback evaluation process.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely. I'm on the same page with you on that. So, all right. So we'll get you out of here with just a couple more. We're going to get into the hot water section here, everyone's favorite. So I've got 3 questions that might get you into hot water. Depends on your answer. First one. Typically, all things being considered, are normal kind of leagues. What is your typical approach to drafting IDP?
So this year I'm taking a little bit of a different approach. And I think it's one of the first times I've really tried to articulate and figure out what my approach is. So I am going fade DB and go defensive line heavy early on. So linebacker is fairly deep. It is not as deep as what you might think, but DB is so incredibly deep.
Yep.
We have seen this with all the mock drafts. Granted, these are dynasty mock drafts, but I think a lot of the same player pool is in effect for both redraft and dynasty. We talked about it on the last show we did that you had like DL 34 and LB 36 going off the board, and then after that, DB 16. So you can get DB later. Will you have to fight with some of your league mates over those guys? Yes. But speaking from experience, the 3 best balls I'm in right now, trying out this strategy, it's worked beautifully, man. The one we're in together on MFL, I've come away with Justin Reed,
Mhm.
Justin Simmons.
Mm.
I picked up Marcus May with my last draft pick, and Xavier McKinney. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's just tons of value to be had. And I didn't take my first safety until probably like pick number 9, 10, and this is IDP only. So I'm fading DB. I'm going D line early. In those sleeper drafts, I'm loading up on LB, DL eligible guys because it's
Oh, yeah.
best ball, right? You
Yep.
want the guys that can pop into either spot.
Mhm.
So that's my strategy for 2022. We'll see if it changes. I think you have to stay on your toes based on how the NFL changes, based on the players that we have coming through, right? Like if the NFL decides that they want to go like safety heavy, maybe that changes your draft strategy. Maybe linebackers suddenly the body type changes, or they become a more coveted position and pass rushers are diminished in terms of their importance. I don't know. I don't know what trends are around the corner for the NFL, but for this time and place, I'm going fade DB, DL early.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I've gotten similar answers across the board, and it's just, if you're on sleeper, you can lump corners in with that too. So that puts your player pool up over like 90 easy starters right there. Yeah. So linebacker, I feel like right behind DT first, because DT drops off a cliff. Obviously, you either have one or you don't. So if you don't get one of the cheek clappers, just skip it. Come back later. But DE, you gotta have good DEs. But linebackers right behind that now. There's only like what 20 full-time linebackers still in the league right now. So you got to get like an anchor linebacker or two. But it's also one of the positions that's easily readily available after like week 4, week 3, week 4. Just pay attention, you'll be fine. But yeah, you got to kind of split the difference on that a little bit. But I'm totally with you. DB is so deep, so deep. Like you can wait all day on that.
Yeah, to quote you to yourself, those linebackers after week 4 just cost you the price of a mouse click, right?
That's
So
it. Yeah.
And it's I've seen it. I've tried to really pay attention and draw some takeaways and some lessons from the time that I've been doing this. And linebacker is the easiest position to replace in the waiver wire. It just is. You're not going to walk into a starting caliber defensive end every week on your waiver wire, whereas just about every week there is a linebacker out there on waivers that you can plug and play in your lineups with confidence.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Love that. What about favorite? I think I might get a different answer here. What's your favorite platform and why?
So it's RSO.
Mm.
That is our main dynasty league. I also play on ESPN. I play on Sleeper. I will say I'm on kind of a journey this off season to figure out like what do I enjoy? Like what is it? What's the combination of like fantasy platforms, number of leagues, league setup, like what is going to scratch that itch for me? And I've been doing these best balls on Sleeper. I really enjoy the MFL setup. I don't play a lot of MFL, but the one that we're doing with D tackle, with cornerback, tons of fun. A lot of different from the ones that we're doing over on Sleeper because of the way the positions are broken out. But yeah, man, for me, I love the complexity of RSO. That's why we partnered up with them. That's why they're a sponsor of our podcast, is because like we love that league. That's the league platform for our listener leagues that we did this past year. I will say though, just to give a quick plug, I am extremely excited about the all 22
Oh, yeah.
league setup. So we're going to be drafting here pretty soon after the NFL draft. We're going to be able to get in there and get our hands on that league setup. So shout out to the all 22 guys. Very exciting format for fantasy that I am pumped. This is a good looking site. I love some of the innovations they've come up with. So ask me again next year. I might have a different answer for you, but for right now, it's RSO.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I used to play like regular salary cap back in the day, but never gotten into like the complex salary cap like you guys are doing. I'd like to give that a try at some point. I think the all 22 is going to be great though. Looking forward to figuring that out and giving it a whirl.
Yeah, why not? It's something new, and I think that to me is fun and something truly new and truly innovative, not just like, super flex or tight end premium or D tackle required or whatever kind of wrinkle we put on this, but like what can fundamentally shift the way we play fantasy. Now, will I enjoy this form of fantasy more? I don't know. I can't tell you that until I actually get into it and experience it, but I'm intrigued. And I think at this point, with where we are in kind of the evolution of fantasy, intrigue, that's appealing to me. Like I'm willing to kind of wade out into uncharted waters and just see how things go.
Yeah, that's it, man. And if, even if we suck at it, it's going to make us better. It's going to make us think different. It's a lot of good competition. So steel sharpens steel. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Okay, thoughts on fantasy Twitter? Final hot water question.
I mean, it's a cesspool, right? Like it's the literal worst place on earth. Like we don't have to sugarcoat this. It is the most cringeworthy, just hellhole of zero self-awareness and just like it brings out the Twitter in general brings out the worst qualities and characteristics of people. But fantasy Twitter, where a bunch of folks are really trying to like make a go at this and put themselves out there and build a brand and make this a living, and it just is there's a great quote I love, which is most men live lives of quiet desperation. Holy shit. Fantasy Twitter reeks of quiet or sometimes loud desperation. And man, it sucks. I wish there was another place we could conduct our business. Unfortunately, the world that we're in, it's part of our penance that we have to pay. But God, it sucks, Johnny.
I know it is part of our penance, but it does. Nate mentioned this in episode 1, and it's so true. Like when you look at site stats and downloads and stuff, where do all your searches come from? Is it fucking fantasy Twitter or is it Google?
It's Google. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
not Twitter.
So
Yeah, like
I love the people that are like going all out to win the Twitter game. Like that's 2% of your searches. Like good job.
yeah, like I don't play the game. Like for the longest time, I treated my Twitter, the people I followed, like a party. And I still do to a certain extent, but I've had to kind of, ramp that up now, being more immersed in the community, which is a term that makes me want to kill myself because like you get to choose the community that you live in most of the time, right? Like you can pick the communities that we don't get to pick this. Like we're stuck with this because we enjoy doing this work. So we unfortunately have to be part of this community. But I've always said the people I follow on Twitter, it's like a good party. Like if it's more than 100 people, probably a little too crowded. So I think I follow like maybe 150 people at this point. But I actually like to enjoy my Twitter account. Like I only want to follow the folks that I feel like add something to my life rather than take it away. Like I'm not on any other social media. I got off Facebook because that's an even worse, just
Mm-hmm.
den of vipers is Facebook. Not on Instagram. I would rather sell my soul to the devil than be on TikTok. Like this is it. Twitter is it for me. So it's like I want this to be additive, not subtractive to my life. So I'm not going to follow people that make me want to like wander into interstate traffic. And that's why, I think I'm sitting at like 700 follow. I don't care. I don't care. And no shade or no hate or no disrespect to anyone that takes a different approach. I just don't care. It does not matter to me how many followers I have, what kind of interaction I'm getting. I hope my stuff does well. If it doesn't, that's okay. I'm gonna go tonight. I'm gonna go to bed tonight and sleep just fine.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I'm getting some real fun answers to that question so far in this interview series. That's for sure.
Johny, I can promise you, I don't know how this show is going to go, but one thing I can promise you is you will never have anyone that's like, you know what? I love fantasy football Twitter. Like, it is the best place on earth and a place I wish I could spend more time. No, everyone's going to be like, look, it sucks, but you just have to deal with it for the line of work that we're in. And then people might say, well, Josh, why wouldn't you just stop doing this if you hate fantasy Twitter? No, I love my weight. The weight of my love for what I do and who I get to do it with outweighs even how putrid fantasy Twitter is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I wouldn't give up the relationships with the guys like you have met and the readers and the guys that listen to the podcasts and they're my favorite thing these days is not even is like I don't know, Sunday morning, someone coming with like a last minute corner streaming strategy session or something. Like that stuff is great. Just talking nitty gritty, talking shop with someone that read your article and just wants to tweak things before kickoff. Or there's this guy Joe G that's in our Slack. Well, it was Slack chat. Now it's Discord. And I set up his streams for him during playoffs, and I nailed him, and just nailed him across the board, and he won the title. And just like like having him be like, "Oh, dude, that was awesome!" Like that's the stuff right there. Like that's why we do this to help people win, and because it's a good thing to do.
There like flowers grow out of cow shit, right? Like there are some things about fantasy Twitter that are actually worthwhile. I think we've mentioned this on the pod, but one of our listeners said that he DM'd us and he said that he just wanted to let us know that he would listen to our podcast with his dad when his dad was in the hospital. And he spent his final days with his dad listening to our show because his dad loved defense. That was his favorite side of the ball. And there still aren't a lot of pods out there about defense. And we were his favorite. And so he would spend time in the hospital with his dad listening to our show. And I've put a lot of creative work out into the world. I'm a writer. I've written 2 books. I've probably written 1,000 articles for work at this point. Contributed to a lot of publications. Like, I've done a lot of like creative stuff where I'm like putting myself out there. That is the most meaningful comment and piece of feedback I have ever gotten from anyone that has consumed anything that I've ever put out. So, yeah, if it's just for that one comment from that one listener saying that he got to have this time with his dad and our show was a part of that, that's worth it. I'll put up with the hellhole that is fantasy Twitter if I get to have moments like that.
Couldn't have said it better, man. Absolutely. That is good stuff right there. So we'll get you out here on this. Anything you want to plug? I'm going to avoid that. Yeah, anything you want to promote or plug this season. Yeah, and any closing thoughts on your end?
Is your butthole available after this pod? Because that's the only thing I'm thinking about plugging, Johnny.
It's already occupied. I've got a Mitsubishi in there.
You got a Mitsubishi parked sideways in that thing?
Yes. Sideways.
Yes. So yeah, you know what the deal is, man. We're gonna be pumping the IDP Draft Kit. Check it out. Early bird pricing, like I mentioned, the IDPDraftKit.com, $10 through the NFL draft. So pick you up a copy before May gets here. Really excited for that. Like Adam said on the pod, we don't do anything unless it's quality. So you can rest assured those $10 will be $10 well spent. The IDP show, man, we keep on cranking. There is no off season. Since we started this show, we have put out an episode every single week from July of 2019 onward, and we'll continue to do so. So plug in. Even if you feel like it's the off season and maybe fantasy isn't really cranking right now, come check us out because the IDP show never stops. And then on a personal note, I'm working on my 3rd book, the 3rd book in the Silas Ford series. It is called The Next Nephilim, and it is probably about 2 chapters down at this point, so a long way to go. My hope is that I will have this published by sometime next year. My company, one of the perks of working there is that they publish your book for free. So that's pretty awesome. That's how I published my 2nd book, Fall of the Angels. But if you'd like to check out, if you're into urban fantasy, angels, demons, if you watch the TV show Supernatural or enjoy like Constantine, like things of that ilk, check it out on Amazon. The Devil's Halo is the 1st book, and Fall of the Angels is book number 2. And who knows, maybe by the time you get done, the next Nephilim will be out for you to read as well.
Awesome, man. Love that. And last but not least, do you think that most road rage is poop related?
If I had to put the kind of pie chart on this, Johnny, I'm going to go with probably 98% of it is poop related.
That's what I was thinking too.
Because when have you been angrier than when you're trying to get home to poop and some jackass has cut you off in traffic? There's no rage like that.
Never. Yeah. The panic involved causes you to do crazy things. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, Josh. This has been an absolute pleasure. Love talking to you, man. I knew this would be a good one. If you're not following him, please do so on Twitter at Josh Raymer, all one word. He is Josh Raymer of the IDP Show and the IDPshow.com. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Johnny, this was a blast, man. I'm glad you are doing this show. It's been a lot of fun. Love the guests that you've had on thus far, and I appreciate you making me part of the lineup. I love you, my friend.
Love you too, buddy. All right, people. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next Monday, about 7 a.m. Eastern. The next episode will be out. Have a good week. Take care. Bye.